Good afternoon. If you're joining us live and you're watching us on the replay, hey, we appreciate that very, very much. We're coming off a really big high this week because this past Monday, we had a super event called the CVC Home Service Success Summit. And we had some fantastic speakers there. And so, Brandi, before we start out, which speaker rose to the top of your list and just tickled your fancy with the words he talked about?
Well, I think I always, they all did a great job, but I think I always like Tommy Mello just because he's so hyper that my personality kind of matches with that, so I can keep up.
I understand. Sheryl, what was your highlight presentation that you heard this week with this fantastic group of presenters?
Mine's a hard swing between Scott McCain and Randy Pennington. Scott maybe a little bit more because it works more with what I'm working on right now.
Yep. And I'm really divided on those two also because I think they brought a message to people. And realistically, their two presentations, I think everybody should be sharing with their company members because it talked about making the ultimate customer experience and it talked about the culture. And with those two things, to be honest with you, we all feel that this is going to solve so many of the hiring issues that people have where you stand out in your community as a place to go to work. So that's inspired today's subject matter, to be honest with you. So a couple of days ago, I signed out Sheryl and Brandi. I said, this is going to be our subject matter of today. And Brandi stepped back. Well, I guess I got to do some research. So I know that little lady hit the internet and she's done some research on that. That's it. And same thing about Sheryl. So we're going to be right back in just a minute. And we're going to talk about it because today our subject matter is teamwork. Because if you don't have teamwork, you're never going to make that dream work. So stick around with us. We will be right back. So like I said, today, it's all about that word called teamwork. And we're going to base today's discussions on a man that I have sat in the classroom with. I highly respect. He is a great author of so many books, and they're all leadership books. And he's one of the leading leadership experts in the world today. And that man's name is Dr. John Maxwell. But as you look at this, Brandi's been through leadership training and is a leadership coach. Sheryl has been trained under the umbrella of Ziegler. And again, it's all about making that dream team. So the book that we're going to deal with today is a book by Dr. Maxwell, and it's called The 17 Indisputable Laws of Teamwork. Now, as much as we'd like to go through this entire book, I'm going to recommend you get this if you've got a team of players, because there's 17 critical things. So, Brandi, when I sent you each of those chapters earlier this week, did you see where this would solve the problems?
Yeah, I mean, it was even challenging to me, some of the different laws as I was reading through them. Definitely challenging, but gosh, I don't know. I think John Maxwell is just such an incredible man and just so insightful and charismatic. It's just, I admire him.
I truly do. And and the important thing is, when I went through training with Dr. Maxwell and spent those days in Orlando, Florida, in his certification, they had actually analyzed and have a computer printout of how he spoke and how he led up to his learning points. So, Sheryl, what was your thoughts?
I mean, I'm like Brandi. I love his theory, what he speaks. He has gathered all the knowledge, like us.
Well, I think she just went dead, Brandi. Can you hear me okay?
Been here a few years.
Now you're back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I like the way he speaks. I like what he's talking about. And there's nothing in there that somebody can't do. I don't think anybody can do all 17 of them. I really don't. But I think they can. That's a good thing to strive for.
Yeah. And, it's like one of the books that I recommend for every client is the 21, irrefutable laws of leadership. And when I tell them that, I said, these 21 laws, you're probably never going to be able to fill every one of them. You're going to have to work the rest of your life to get onto this. But the thing I like about John Maxwell is he has his teaching point, but he always gives you a story to go with it. And that's one of the key things that it takes to get a message across. Sheryl and I have been trained under Scott McCain. And one of Scott's things is the power of story and putting the story into play to where it backs up your opinions and makes people think. Also, another gentleman we've studied under is Larry Winget. And Larry talks about the power of a soundbite. And what's a soundbite? A soundbite is saying something in such a profound way that it makes people think. And that's what we're hoping you'll do today is you listen to us, that what we share with you will give you words to think about. So one of the first laws we're going to talk about is what Dr. Maxwell calls the law of the big picture. In other words, the goal is more important than the role. Now, Brandi, as you hear that, what thoughts come to your mind about the law of the big picture?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is, rather than focusing on the itty bitty things and the itty bitty parts of our business, it's the leader's job to let everyone know and show what that big picture is. What is that bigger goal that we're all trying to reach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. Sheryl, what about you?
Well, I was brought up under it's better to win the war than the battle. So it's kind of the same thing. Don't go after the little fish when you can work for the big fish.
That's it. Earlier this week, I'm going to go back to our Success Summit. And I had a goal in putting this entire thing together. And the goal was to give solutions to the leading challenges of home service maintenance contractors, the roofers, the plumbers, the chimney sweeps, to pool people, glass, exterminators. The list went on and it went very deep. And the thing was, it wasn't that we had a single star in there. We had a team of rock stars. We promoted it this way. You ladies were rock stars. You all are experts in your areas of expertise, and you shared it with the people that gave us the honor and the pleasure of listening to us. And that's what it's like in business. And often let's just say we have a prima donna on the team. Brandi, you ever had a prima donna?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So how do you deal when you've got that? It's like I had a client this week. It's a very good client I had a discussion with yesterday. And he's not the first one that said this, but he's actually made the statement to his employer, if it weren't for me, this company wouldn't be here. This company wouldn't be. And it made this client so mad. But here's the whole thing. And I told him, I said, listen, the next time someone asks you that, I want you to ask them a question. Have they ever heard a great singer go onto a stage, a great performer, and really knock it out of the park? Well, yeah. I said, do you ever think about it? Someone had to set that stage. Someone had to set the sound system. Someone had to make sure everything was there that you needed to be successful. And without all those key components, it didn't work. It was just like in our summit on Monday. Sheryl, you were sitting in the background pushing the buttons, right?
Yes.
And it was. And that's what the whole thing was about, where it was a team effort. Everybody came in dead on the time they were supposed to. They all finished their presentations dead on the money. Everything went off all the way through. So what's your thought about this of what we're talking about here, Sheryl? What's your thought about this big picture thing? Do you think people don't understand the big picture?
Honestly, I think sometimes people are afraid to look at the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I don't think that a lot of people's visualization, boy, that came out well, can grasp it all at one time, and they feel like they have to put the pieces together and they'll fit. But that's not how it works. I mean, it's a jigsaw puzzle is no good till all the pieces are there, till it becomes a full picture. And it's looking from that 30,000 foot above that really helps a business get intact.
Yep, it really does. And, I'll take you to another client conversation this week. I was speaking to one of my clients and an employee of his that had recently come to work there. And this guy's job description is he is a systems integrator. In other words, he's taken everything that needs to be done in the business and he is systematizing it all the way through org charts, everything. He's listened to Al Levy on our conversations. He's actually, Brandi, believe it or not, he's building a wiki site, just like we've talked about.
Nice.
And putting this all together. So as I was talking to him the other day, I asked the question, and it was, tell me what you see in this company, because I could tell he was a very knowledgeable individual. And he said, Jerry, here's the one thing I don't know. I don't know, and he said his boss's name, I don't know what his vision is. I don't know what his actual end destination was. And later that evening, I had a conversation with the employer and I said, I think this guy's super, but he doesn't understand your destination. He doesn't understand where you want to go. And I think that's what a lot of people do. Sheryl, do you see people that don't share what their vision is with their people?
The bad part, I see that all the time. It's kind of like it's a real secret thing. And that transparency is what will open a business up to thrive. If your employees have no clue where you're going, how will they know how to help you get there?
Yeah. I can't imagine Vince Lombardi went and started coaching the Green Bay Packers back, in the 1960s or 50s, whenever he started coaching. I can't imagine that he did not give his vision, that they were going to be the champions of the National Football League. He shared his vision and he drove and he devoted himself into it. In other words, the leader probably worked harder than anybody else did. And that's one of the things we got to do. We have to show an example to those that we lead. They got to understand, what is that big picture we're going after? What's that final destination? And Brandi, let me take you back. There was a time that y'all had a much smaller, much less neat, shall we say, much less effective building, almost within sight of your present building. Would that be correct?
Yes.
And whenever you moved into this new building and your employees saw this, all of a sudden you had warehouse space. All of a sudden you didn't have to drive through a really rough driveway to get in. You had parking, those kind of things. How did that change the overall morale in your company?
I think it definitely increased it. I know for me it did. I had said if we ever moved that we would have 2 bathrooms because I was sharing a bathroom with like 5 technicians at the time, which was gross. We got 3 bathrooms. But I also wanted to make sure that my office had windows because in the old building I didn't have windows. So I definitely had a vision for what that new space would look like.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, that one restroom was awful cold in the wintertime. Is my memory correct?
The water would freeze in it. So like I'd have to put on my coat and gloves to go to the bathroom.
So there it is. So here's the next law I want to go over. Like I said, that was the big picture. But here's the whole thing. I want you to look at your team for a minute, and I want you to think of it like a chain. And here's the problem. The chain is only as strong as the weakest link. Now, Sheryl, you deal with a lot of companies and hiring and new people. How often do you see that an employer is dealing with what we're going to call a weak link in their chain?
Usually that's what they're doing. I mean, if you've got a strong link, you want to keep them there. If you've got a weak link, you need to get a better link in. The problem is, maybe this link just needs some more training, but we have to assess, is he the person we need to let go and hire someone, or do we need to train him in the area? So I sit with every customer basically every day.
Right. Now, there's another side to this, which is the teachings of traction in Mr. Wickman. Because in Mr. Wickman's case, in his book, Traction and the EOS System, it's all about having the right person in the right seat. And often this is one of the issues where we have a person, they're a great person. They work super hard, but they do not fit that seat we got them in. Now, Brandi, you work differently with clients than Sheryl does. You work very closely with the office staff. Do you ever see where someone is a great contributor, but they're just in the wrong seat and a seat that doesn't fit their personalities?
Every day, all the time. Yeah, they've been promoted to a position that maybe they didn't really want, but they liked the title. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they're not being utilized enough. Sometimes I see that they're extremely talented and they're underutilized. So I think it can go both ways. But I think the most common mistake that we do make is assuming that every person on the team belongs there and should have a seat, because that's just not true. It's just like every customer is not our customer.
Right. And it also goes down to the way we train people, because this is one of the places that I see a lot of people make a big mistake in business, and they actually develop a weak link in the chain. And that is, they can take a super worker. I am talking about top notch, can knock it out of the park. But here's your issue. Many times you ask this person to train someone new and they suck as a trainer. Brandi, you ever seen this, that people, they're super at what they do, but at the same time, they cannot train other people. And by doing that, are we building weak links in our chain?
Well, not only weak links, but I think it also builds resentment.
Builds resentment. What else do you see in that?
I mean, Sheryl could probably speak more. I don't know. It probably has something to do with the disc, but it's just not everybody is meant to be a teacher. That's not everybody's strength. Not everybody enjoys that. Some people are just really skilled at their job and they just want to put their head down and do their job.
Yeah. And then here's another law. And this is one we see a lot. And that is the law of the bad apple, where we have the wrong attitude on our team. And see, this bad attitude, in fact, I'm teaching a class in March 7th, and it's all about, and the title of it is Sales Success for the Service Technician. And part of the byline is the service call is simply an audition for the big job that customer really, really needs. So what we got to look at here is attitudes. And if you have a bad attitude, you're going to have a problem. And what you've got to do is people have to learn to adapt to that attitude. Now, Brandi, let me ask you a question. How many years of schooling as a nurse did you have?
Oh gosh, altogether?
Yeah.
5.
5 years of training, plus you went to high school. Okay. So what you're looking at is you had 17 years of training. In that 17 years of training, Brandi, how many hours were devoted to attitude?
Probably not a lot, honestly. I mean, I think you had a good attitude about it or you didn't survive.
Yeah, that was it. But that's something we're not trained for. Sheryl, what's your thought processes on bad apples and the importance of attitude?
Well, we all have them in our companies. That's the bad thing. Attitude's a hard thing to work with, because if an attitude is something you can't untrain.
Yeah.
And it's an inward thing that someone has to do. They have to do it on their own. You can give them suggestions, but a lot of them in their personality, that's just the way they are. And it's within them to change.
Yeah.
And Jerry, one of the things when I was reading about this that, I thought it's such a simple concept, but it was like a light bulb moment, is a bad attitude will spread way faster than a positive attitude.
It really will. But see, Brandi, I want to go a little bit harder, because that's what we've heard about so often in life. Well, we've heard about bad attitudes. We've heard about negative attitudes, which are bad and negative, same thing. And we've heard about positive attitudes. But one of the things that one of my mentors, who I'm certified by also, is Jeffrey Gitomer. And Jeffrey Gitomer wrote a book, and the title of the book is The Yes Attitude. I mean, when you look at it, that's what you had to do. When each of you had that microphone on Monday in your segments, well, Brandi, one thing is you much prefer to stand in front of a group of people than to talk to a computer. And on Monday, it was even worse because you could see none of the students whatsoever, okay? You were the only, whenever it went to you, whenever the intro was done, Brandi was the only person on the screen. right? So
It's
what
the
you had,
weirdest feeling.
you did. So what you had to do was you had to pump yourself up. And that's what we call the yes attitude, where you can, you're determined that you can do this. And see, that's what so many people are. Last night, I was on a group call with a gentleman that both of you admire greatly. If I say the name Glenn Morshower, what comes to your thought? Look at Brandi's face. Brandi, what comes to your thought when you had the opportunity to spend some time with Glenn Morshower on a group call we did?
Well, the word whisper, because he talks about listening to your inner whisper. He is just one of the most charismatic, down to earth, spiritual people I've ever met.
It really was. What about you, Sheryl? What do you think when I say the name Glenn Morshower? What comes to you? Because he participates in the group call that I'm in most Thursday nights. What comes to your mind with Glenn?
Like Brandi, all the above, but he just has this demeanor that makes you want to listen and fall on every word. There's a lot, there are a few speakers that really entice me to listen to, and he's right at the top of them. I think I could listen to him teach all day long.
Right. Well, it was like last night. He was talking about a gentleman that came to him. As y'all know, and I've shared with you, Glenn is not only an actor, he is a coach of actors. In other words, people come to him to learn how to be successful as actors. Because the thing is, actors are always looking for jobs. There's no such thing as becoming an actor at 18 and you retire out of that show. It doesn't happen. You get a run of 2 or 3 years, you're doing pretty good in the acting business, and you may go for a period of time and not have another gig. So this gentleman came to him and said, hey, I need you to coach me. I've got an audition with Fox for a show on Fox. And then the guy said the critical thing, Glenn asked him, how long has it been since you had a gig? And the guy answered in the following way, I'm 4 months shy of 1 year. And Glenn fired off on that comment because he said, with those words, you're saying that you're going to fail for 4 more months. Why did you not say it's been 8 months? Why did you say? Then the guy said something else. He said, and it's a Fox show, and I always bomb at Fox. And Glenn said, no, wait a minute. Why did you not say that you had failed with Fox in the past? Because what your words just said are, I'm going to fail because it's Fox. Sheryl, do you understand what I'm saying? Do those words mean anything to you?
They do. I mean, if you say you're going to fail, you're right. You will. I mean, you've already set your precedent, and that's what subconsciously you're headed towards. So if you know you're going to fail, you're right.
Right. And that's one of the things Glenn's taught, and that's what he referred to. And I think that's one of the things to talk about here. And that is mindset. Do you have a mindset that you're going to win, or do you have a mindset that you're going to fail? And often, Brandi, have you ever looked at your technicians when they get in a slump? I mean, the jobs don't close. This is wrong. That's wrong. And and then they're actually determined to slump at the future ones. It's like you got to go through a lot of strikeouts before you can win again. And that is mindset. So again, what you've got to do, and this is what we're going to teach people in our sales training next month is, you got to have mindset when you show up at that customer's home. Your employer has set the stage for you. I mean, Brandi, when you schedule an appointment, not only have they set an appointment, they probably know exactly when you're going to get there. They're going to have a text going to them that says your technician is on the way. They're going to have a picture of your technician that's going to go to them. We have introduced them to the customer. We may even have told them about their love for their puppies or their cats or their kids, all these different things. And that's all about setting the stage. But Brandi, you can set the stage to a phenomenal level But if a person doesn't have the mindset that they're going to succeed, will they?
They won't. And again, that just goes back to what we've already talked about and how not everybody is appropriate for the team. We all have bad days. I think this is actually the hardest part about being a leader, is because everybody feeds off of the leader's energy. And so you're not really allowed to have a bad day in front of everybody. You've got to go in there every day. It doesn't matter if your dog died that morning or whatever happened. You've got to have a positive mindset. But I also think it's pretty easy when you think about, we live in the first world. Like, these are first world problems that we're having. I always like to look at the cup as overflowing. And so I can always find a way to make it better. Hey, yeah, you went to the job and it didn't go right, but you didn't soot the customer's house and you didn't fall off the roof. So it was a good day.
It was. So, Sheryl, anything you want to add to that thought?
Well, I just want to, and I'm not going to give a name here, but one of the most renowned speakers that I know, to pep himself up before his speech, he goes to who I'm talking about, Jerry. He goes to the green room. He holds his arms up and he growls like a big bear. And he does it a couple times and to get himself boosted up. But that's what fills him up. Each of us have to fill our own cup up at a given moment the way that fits us best.
Well, that's actually not the story I thought you was going to, because we also have a coach and a speaker, and his secret of pumping himself up is he has 10 $100 bills in his pocket when he walks on stage. And what he'll do is, if you ever watch him, his hand's in his pocket when he comes on the stage, and there's $1,000 in his pocket, cash money. And that's to remind him that no matter how it goes today, he's got the money to get home. He's got the money to survive. In other words, if he fails, life's not over with. Same guys told me. I asked him one time, I said, dude, have you ever gotten sick? He said, Jerry, I've actually had to stop in the middle of a presentation and go and throw up in a trash can on the side of the stage. And some of the people that Sheryl and I know that are in the speaking business, guys, this show goes on. Whether you're sick, no matter what, the show goes on. I've heard stories about people driving 8 and 10 hours tonight because planes got canceled to get to their next gig, because the show must go on. In fact, this was one of the things that Sheryl asked me about the event on Monday. She said the following: what's going to happen if somebody doesn't show for some reason, sicknesses, the bus hits them, whatever? I said, Sheryl, if that happens, I'll pull something out of the bag. We will rock and roll. I promise you. I was even prepared of somebody saying, hey, I'm late. One of the reasons I put myself last was if somebody got stuck somewhere, then I would go up and move to their role and to move them into the time that I had set for myself, which as the last speaker. So everything, we were anticipating what could go wrong and going ahead and putting it all together. Now,
but Jerry, you said something important. You said failure. And I think that this is something where a lot of people actually fail themselves in today's world, is we don't encourage failure. And we should, because if you are trying something new, it's not always going to go right. And one of the ways you build grit is by failing and then making it better the next time.
You do. And that goes back to Dr. Maxwell, because one of the quotes I love of him is, when you fail, you always fail forward. Failure is one of the most significant tuitions you could ever pay. Okay, that's what teach you about life. It's like Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is a noted motivational speaker. He's dead. He's deceased, but many people have heard Jim Rohn speak. And one of the things, the messages of Jim Rohn was, formal education will earn you a living. Self-education will make you rich. Okay, and like I said, Brandi, you're a Dave Ramsey follower. Okay, you and Jeremy, and I congratulate y'all. You've done a great job of that as far as going through what's there. But those are life experiences, okay? You did not, that came more than likely, I'm guessing, because maybe things weren't really great financially for the Biswells at this point in life. Would that be true?
Well, I think neither one of us grew up with a lot of money. And so I think that we knew that we watched the hardships our parents had gone through growing up, and we didn't want to have those same hardships. So we had that grit to get out of it.
Yeah. So the last law I want to talk about today, and again, I love this because Dr. Maxwell always brings stories in to reinforce it, such as if you read the 21 Laws of Leadership, he talks about the law of the lid and the McDonald brothers and how they had a lid that couldn't go further. So each one of these laws, he always ties a story into it to illustrate it. And I think this is a really unique story, okay, because on December 28th of the year 2000, Brandi, have you ever done business or heard of a company by the name of Montgomery Ward?
Yes. I am old enough for that.
Okay, good. So here's the whole thing. Montgomery Ward was before Sears Roebuck. Okay. Montgomery Ward was founded in 1872 by Aaron Montgomery Ward. He was a salesman. He worked for dry goods merchants in the Midwest and the South. And here's what they found out. Even when we were kids, Sheryl, when you were a small child, did most of your Christmas and your clothes get picked out of a Sears catalog, or did y'all make them? Okay.
We made our clothes, but as far as Christmas gifts and anything else, I mean, you just couldn't wait for the Christmas edition of the Sears and Roebucks. I mean, we waited for that, and it's amazing. That was almost like Christmas days when you got started.
Yeah, and so here's the whole thing. Montgomery Ward was highly successful before Sears Roebuck was as a catalog company. They printed these massive catalogs. Brandi, how you're in Kansas City. How populated do you think Kansas City was at the turn of the 20th century?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
Okay. So, well, you need to do some history lessons, young
I
lady.
do, apparently.
So anyway, the whole thing was a lot of people, that was rural territory. People were still settling. I know when I've been in Kansas City, I can see that was a drop off. You became a barbecue capital because the catalog got shipped there. And that's how y'all ended up as one of the barbecue capitals, even though your barbecue don't touch North Carolina barbecue. But anyway, so what happened was life changed. The catalog sales disappeared. And it became brick and mortar retailers. And Montgomery Ward would not pay the cost to switch to a brick and mortar. They tried to stay in the catalog business. And by doing that, Sears slowly overtook them. But there's more to the story, which is Sears became a catalog. They sold homes. Everybody knew there was a Sears. Every mall in America had a Sears store at one time. If you go to our local mall where the Sears was, there's a big solid wall there now. The Sears is gone. The Kmart is gone. Now, so Sears Roebuck, which surpassed Montgomery Ward, disappeared, or it is disappearing. And why is that? Because they weren't paying the price that we saw Jeff Bezos paid. Of a guy sitting out in Seattle that started selling books on the internet. Books on the internet. And today, when you look at it, if you can go down a highway for more than 5 minutes and not pass a prime truck somewhere in this country, it's shocking. Right now, Brandi, we can't even rent a van for Bob Wise to drive because Amazon has zapped up every rental van that Enterprise owns.
Wow.
Bob had a class last week in Ohio. We had to ship the product because there is no vans to rent in this country because Amazon took them up. In fact, the airport parking lot where I park at Charlotte Airport, 3/4 of that parking lot is now occupied by Amazon. We have 2 Amazon fulfillment centers in this town. 2. These are massive. Now, how did this happen? Because somebody didn't pay attention to what their customer wanted. And they didn't provide what Scott McCain talked about on Monday. They didn't provide that ultimate customer experience. And that, my friends, this is why you may be having a problem filling your employee roles. Think about it for a minute. Sheryl, what do you remember of what Scott said the other day? What was some of the things that stuck out at you?
Well, how you needed to be distinctive in what you did, how your culture needed to be distinctive. You don't need to be like everybody else. I mean, you don't, and you don't answer it that way. You want to be the person that everybody thinks of when you say something, just like a Frigidaire. A lot of people, when we grew up, a Frigidaire was the refrigerator. Now, is there a Frigidaire refrigerator? I don't think there is, but the people, my grandparents and all, still call any refrigerator a Frigidaire. So you need to, it's branding your business. It's making it a step up above others, because if you're not, you're just in the same box with them.
Yeah. Brandi, what's your thoughts at this point?
Yeah, and same way with attracting talent to your company. Like, what sets you apart from the other companies out there? This was actually my favorite. The law of the price tag was actually my favorite. Like, if you would have given us a choice and said, what should we spend the whole time on? I would have definitely said the price tag. Number one, because I think people look at self-employed people and think that we have like this easy life because they're not seeing the whole background. Or they think that because you work from home, you're just sitting there watching soap operas and have all the free time in the world. But I came across a quote, and I'm not going to pronounce this guy's name right, but he was an author, Tu Yao, and he's pointed out 8 successful things people know they need to sacrifice: time, stability, personal life, sleep, health, quiet times, sanity, and immediate desires. And I guarantee when Jeff Bezos was building Amazon, he sacrificed all of those.
I can guarantee you, because there's a picture of him. And if you look at his desk back in those days, it was a door on 2 sawhorses. Now, when you look at this today, yeah, Jeff Bezos, he's got a rocket he sends up in the sky. And right now he's catching a lot of static because they built him a yacht somewhere in Europe. And now they figured out they can't get the yacht out of where it is. And they're going to have to dismantle a bridge to get this yacht out. That was probably pretty poor planning on the yacht builder's side over there, that it ain't going to fit out. That's like the little boy that built the boat in his basement, can't get it out from there. But this is it. So I'm going to read these 17 laws to you. Number 1, the law of significance. Number 2, the law of the big picture. Number 3, the law of the niche. Number 4, the law of Mount Everest. Number 5, the law of the chain. Number 6, the law of the catalyst. Number 7, the law of the compass. That involves giving your team members confidence and direction. The law of the bad apple, we talked about that one. Here's another one, the law of accountability. Can your people count on each other in a bad situation? Brandi, I've heard you said the other day that when the people are coming in, they're checking with the other one, see if we can help you. That's accountability. You can count on your coworkers. It's like this. If something happened to me or Sheryl, I know I can count on Brandi Biswell, okay? Brandi Biswell knows she can count on Jerry and Sheryl, okay? That's just a bold statement, guys. That's how we feel about each other, okay?
I just did today. I called you today because I couldn't get a hold of Jeremy, and we had a technician at a customer's house with a question that I couldn't answer. And so I called you to ask you.
That's right. The law of the scoreboard. The law of the bench. That's a big one, guys, because what's happening is we don't have a bench. You don't have what pro football team trots on the field without a backup quarterback in case he gets hurt? The law of identity, the law of communication, the law of the edge, the law of high morale, the law of dividend. Here's the whole thing. I could read out testimonials for this book or anything else. But this, my friends, this gets down to what we were talking about in our event on Monday. We talked about the ultimate customer experience. We talked about what separates you. We talk about what the right culture is. And the whole thing is, if you joined us, thank you. But here's what we've done. We have recorded the entire presentation and the handouts. All this has been uploaded. And if you look in the comment bar, you have a link. You can go and purchase access to the entire event on Monday. Okay, the cost is $147, just what you would have paid if you had come to the event. Brandi, is that a value for the people that would take advantage of that?
I mean, I think so. I was blown away at the feedback we got after that event. I was not expecting all of the feedback. And today I had a person call me. They want to engage my services. And they kept talking about, when is the recording coming out? When is the recording coming out? They are on the edge of their seats waiting for the recording.
Right. And we sent those out. So we've issued those out because if you were a VIP attendee, you got the live and you got the recordings. And what's more, the VIPs are going to be able to join in a special phone call that we've actually had. All the people that were presenters are going to be on this call and get, from there. So anyway, it's you've got access to there. Here's my offer to you. If you get those seminars, and if you don't feel it is a value, you contact me. I will refund your money. That is my guarantee of the value of what you're going to hear on that event that we did on Monday. I'm telling you, the value will be significant. It's going to give you what you need. And with that, we're going to end up, and that's pretty much it for the day from the thoughts I had. Sheryl, is anything you want to add into today's discussion?
I would say just everybody get the book. I think it would benefit everyone if they have a chance and actually can afford it, if they feel like it's a deal. Get the summit, because I think they'll learn things. I mean, as much as we go through things, I learned things while I sat through it.
Yeah, it did. Brandi, anything you would share with people that are with us today?
Well, like Sheryl said, I took a lot of notes Monday during the summit. I was just as much a participant as I was a presenter. And then I would encourage people, if you have not yet done so in your company, use this book to go through with your leadership team and use it as a book study and a way to help define better what your culture and your values are at your company. And then, yes, absolutely, if you were not able to be with us on Monday, I highly recommend that you get the recording and watch it with your leadership team.
Yeah, realistically. So my name's Jerry Eisenhower. This is Brandi Biswell. This is Sheryl Eisenhower, and we're part of the CBC Success Group team. And our mission, what we live for, is helping others. Yesterday morning, we had a group call with one of our coaching groups and listening to the challenges and how to get people to to get past their challenges and how to get the things that they want in life. But here's the simple thing. Running a business, if you're a manager, it ain't easy. It is hard work. And a lot of people just don't understand that. So you get up against challenges, whatever. You see all of our email addresses right on the screen right now. Any of us will be glad to have a phone call with you, listen to you. Maybe the concepts we got will work for you. They work for piles of other people. We're watching people move to new levels. We've got clients that are just moving into brand new locations right now. I've got one client, Brandi, that just built a wonderful building less than 2 years ago. The building is now, they've outgrown it. They're going to have to add another 2,000 feet onto it. They bought the lot next door. And it's like I told him just a couple of days ago. I said, I remember just a few short years ago, and I do mean short years ago, when the first trip I made to visit you, you were in a garage at your home and your driveway could not hold but one service truck. And today you have grew to an immaculate level of where you're going. Because Brandi, yesterday, they launched Service Titan as their new software yesterday. And when you look at that, that takes some accomplishment, just like it said. And I told him, he was looking at the cost of the software, but now he balances out the return on the investment. I've got another client, Brandi, you and I had a chat with him a couple of weeks ago. He sent me a note. He is on Service Titan right now. And this was his words. This software is the slickest thing I have ever seen in my life. So that's the kind of help we give people. You're going to face your challenges or whatever. So from CBC Success Group to you, we really appreciate you being with us today. If we can help you in any way, any shape or form, feel free to reach out to us. Now, here's my next big challenge. What I've got to do is I've got to hit a button because it says in broadcast. So it is my goal to hit this button to where this button will cease this broadcast right as I say the last word I'm hoping